Hi, this is John though with the DNB Academy, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make your drums stand out on your build-ups. Alright, so for this one I'm just going to use this drum loop that I made a while ago, and I'm going to show you. It's just a classic breakbeat. Everything is grouped inside my drum bus. And that's usually what you'll end up with by the time that you start to work on your build-up for your drop, and you want to use your drums on them, on those build-ups. I mean, you can even use these techniques not only on the intro build-up, but also for the switch, for the second breakdown. So it's a really sort of classic technique, but there are a few ways to make things easier and can boost up your creativity. And for that reason, the first step, what you're going to do, instead of using all these effects and all these plugins that we're going to use now, instead of using them and making automations to turn them on and off throughout the track, which can lead to some more heaviness on your CPU, and some people don't want that. And even for, as I said before, creativity reasons, this is the best way. So first things first, we're gonna bounce these drums onto a single audio channel. So I'm gonna create an audio track. Then I'm gonna make this a resampling track. Arm the record button here. Let's arm the track. Now we're gonna hit record. All right, let's fix this excess here. So now we've got our drums on a separate audio channel. And this is way better because that way you can focus your drum bus only for your drums. You don't have to be cranking up the chain with a lot of processing plugins and turning them on and off all the time just to make these effects. So now that we got our audio drum loop here, let's imagine that this instance here is our drop. So what we will probably do is make like at least an 8-bar loop with our drums. Because we have these variation here, we just gonna do this, simply copying the first phrase of the drum loop. Let me solo it. Let's see if there's any clicks. No, it's perfect. So now let's start applying some of these techniques. First of all, since we split the audio track in 4 different instances, we're gonna merge them all together again. So for that, I'm gonna select all of them and consolidate, which can be done with a Ctrl-J shortcut. This is one of my favorite Ableton Live features, because it allows you to work with audio so fast and bounce everything you do that will immediately go to your project folder as a sample. Obviously, you can do this in any other DAW, but okay. Now, first things first, let's use a filter. Right. For this occasion, I'm going to use Ableton's auto filter, which is a really simple filter. And I'm pretty sure that every single DAW has a filter like this, and any other third-party companies might have them. So it's nothing too fancy. Right. Usually for a build-up, you can go both ways. You can start off like this and move up your frequency. Just opening up the filter so we get more highs. Pretty classic technique. Awesome. Then we can do it the other way around, which can work at some points. Or we can even do a bandpass, which makes the things a bit more dusty because it removes most of the tops and the lows at the same time, so we're left with the mids. And usually if you do this, you can achieve some pretty cool results as well. So okay, let's stick with low pass and make this sort of movement. All right, so what we're gonna do is just create an automation lane for our filter frequency here. And now let's create the first automation point at the beginning, and now we make a ramp up until, let's say, here, because here we can sort of make some silence. Just leave the kick and make some silence for the drop. So it's gonna sound something like this. Let me put this behind so it affects the first hit. We can even make it shorter, but now let's zoom in. We just want to leave the kick here. You can hear it makes more sounds like. Let's make a fade in here because we're getting clicks. Just need to make like a quick fade out, I mean, sorry. And we're good to go. So first step is done. We applied our filter. Right after it, I usually go with an EQ because filters can create some unwanted resonances. And as you could hear, the low end of our track, it was being boosted a lot here, especially when the filter starts to swipe out around the 200, 300 hertz area, like here. You see, there's a lot of muddiness. So I'm gonna just put the EQ, and we're gonna remove some of those lows. Not like 100%, but just make them a little bit milder, you know? This will help your actual kick drum have more impact on the drop. Otherwise, it will sound weaker because this kick will eventually sound way stronger, especially on the low end part, and that's not beneficial for the impact of your drop. So, moving on to the next one, we're gonna apply this really cool plugin that I use a lot for this specific occasions from Unfiltered Audio, which is called Dent 2. And Dent 2 is pretty much a really simple filter, sort of, but it works in a sort of analog-y way, which gives your sounds that feeling that they are being processed throughout like analog old school machines. And the best approach for this, I mean, that's at least how I use it, and most of the people that I know use it this way as well. It's just like browse through presets and find cool automations that you can work around with your drums. For that, I'm going to turn off all this, both these plugins that we used before, and now we're going to start looking for something that we like and that makes sense for what we're doing, obviously, because this plugin can go crazy at some points, and you're going to notice that. Okay, let's start like, okay, this one's cool. We just start browsing around with the cutoff and some other automation clips that you can add. Let's see this one. Really interesting stuff. And as you can see, you can sort of make like a modular routing. But that would need a tutorial for this plugin, just for itself. Looking for something with a bit more character than just like a regular filter, like this one. And we can even automate the bits, because this is the first effect. We get like bit crush, bend, and all of these options. So I like this one actually. So let's add 2 more automation lanes to our build-up. So okay, let's start with the bits here. I really liked what it did, and then the cutoff. So we got these 3 automations for our drum loop. Now let's turn our plugins back on. we need to fix this first hit because this is not turning on properly. All right, so the unfiltered audio plugin is just crackling all over the filter because we need to put this before the filter. So the filter also works on top of it. And now we can do our automations. You see. Let's start with the bits one. All right, we don't want it to be working just yet. We want it to start evolving around this spot here. We'll actually go down. Now we need to find the sweet spot to close it down. Yeah, something like this. Because what we're gonna do next, it's important as well. All right, cool. Now we can also play around with our cutoff here. Filter cutoff. We can make something like this. Let's hear it. Maybe go up here, like not so aggressive. All right. Oh, Control Z. All right. Good, good, good. Now let me just check something because I don't know why, but as you can hear, our drum loop, it's fine now. Yeah, it's starting pretty well. Okay. Now our final step would be adding a bit of reverb. And I'm gonna use Valhalla Room because it's my favorite reverb for pretty much anything, but especially when we're dealing with drums. This can be very, very straightforward, simple, but yet so good when it comes to the overall feeling of an overall purpose of a reverb. So, okay, we don't need to have the mix all the way up here. We can make this medium room. And we're gonna automate the decay and the mix. We should actually be careful with the high cut here because we want all those highs to be present. And like halfway through on the depth. Okay, now we're gonna start like halfway through, we're gonna start to open up the mix so we have more reverb at the end where all the sort of all the automations meet to give that final hit on the drums. Now the decay. Now we can leave the decay a little bit. Now we start to. All right. Cool. Now we should just go to Valhalla here, and on this options here we got your early and your late reverb options, obviously, but they are not that important unless you want to cut a bit of the lower frequencies. That's what we're gonna do here, because you got your eyes crossover and you got your bass crossover here. So what we're gonna do is just maybe remove some of those. Awesome. So this is pretty much what we're left with. And just to close things down with our chain, we're gonna apply another EQ at the end. Let's start closing down our plugins here so we have everything organized. And now we're just gonna cut some of the lows once again. This is a really important step, unless your drums will sound way too big for the build-up and you lose impact. And you know what? Now that we finished, you can always play around with your auto filter, because your auto filter, it's gonna be the main responsible character in this chain to give your drums their own path, if you know what I mean. You can use a lot of stuff afterwards and before, but the filter is gonna lead the way. Like if we change this to bandpass, it's gonna have a almost totally different sound. Like we could start like going down again, then go up, and now we got a different sort of dynamics on this drum loop, as you can hear. Now let's leave the loop to play. Obviously we don't have any other elements, but we might feel the difference and the impact of our normal drums now. But we need to solo it. So let's listen to it again with proper layout. I think I'm gonna even bring the mix lightly. So yeah, there you go. I think this is a pretty useful technique because this allows you to save time and then never forget that you can pretty much just like use this throughout your track. You just drag and drop your audio instance somewhere, anywhere you want to actually, and you can immediately make those quick edits like between bar ends and all that, you know. So you can use this forever on your track without having to mind with a lot of automations and a lot of plugins that you need to be turning off and on all the time just for some edits sake. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.